Good morning, students. Today we are studying about the topic ruling the countryside. This topic is from history of 7th and 8th class. It is about our ancestors and the people ruling India. Revenue for the company. The revenue for the company generated by different means. As Diwan, the company became the chief financial administrator of the territory under its control. Now it had to think about administering the land and organizing its revenue resources. This means that company was looked after, especially the revenue section was looked after by Diwan. Before 1865, the company had purchased goods in India by importing gold and silver from Britain. Now, the revenue collected in Bengal could finance the purchase of goods for export. Before 1865, company purchased goods in India. They imported gold and silver from which country? Britain, as Britain was ruling India. So they imported gold and silver from Britain. The revenue collected in Bengal, as the East India Company was established in Bengal itself. So revenue collected in Bengal was as much as they can import the gold and silver from Britain, and they were spending the revenue in that. Soon it was clear that Bengal economy was facing deep crisis. Measures to improve agriculture. As in Indian economy, agriculture is the base of the economy. Agriculture give a lot of contribution to the economy. Permanent settlement. 1793, the Rajas and Talukdars were recognized as zamindars. They were asked to collect rent from the peasants and pay revenue to the company. The amount to be paid was fixed permanently. It was not to be increased ever in future. It was felt that this would ensure a regular flow of revenue into the company's coffers and at the same time encourage the zamindars to invest in improving the land. Since the revenue demand of the state would not be increased, the zamindars would benefit from increased production of the land. Permanent settlement was a settlement in which the Rajas and Talukdars are known as zamindars, who are the landowners who collect revenue, like they were the head who were controlling the agricultures. They were asked to collect rent from poor peasants and have to pay the high revenue amounts to the company. That amount which was paid by the peasants was completely fixed. It was permanently fixed and it does not change. And it will never not to be increased in future. This settlement was introduced to make sure that there is regular flow of revenue towards the company and to encourage zamindars to invest more in the land. Revenue demand for the state will not be increased, and zamindars used to get a lot of increased production from the land. This settlement was also made for the benefit of the company. Then another settlement came into existence. It was known as Mahalwari settlement. Northwestern provinces of the Bengal presidency. Most of this area is now Uttar Pradesh. An Englishman called Holt Mackenzie devised the new system which came into effect in 1822. Therefore, Malwari settlement was given by an Englishman known as Holt Mackenzie. He gave this system in 1822. In this, the northwestern provinces were part of it. Collectors went to village, inspected the land, measured the fields, recorded the customs and rights of different groups. All the collectors went to different villages, got to know about the villages, the measurements, the lands, how much produce is there, like different estimates were taken. And The revenue of each plot within a village was added up to calculate the revenue that each village had to pay. And particularly in Malwari settlement, a village is known as Mahal. This demand was to be revised periodically, not permanently fixed. In this, the revenue was not permanently fixed. Like the more land, the more production, so the revenue was more. It was not amount was not fixed. It changed periodically. The charges of collecting the revenue and paying it to the company was given to the village headman rather than the zamindars. In this system, it was different than permanent as the zamindar was in charge of all the revenue for the company, but in this case, the village headman used to collect the revenue and pay it to the company. Zamindar was not a part of it. The Monroe system was another system. Ryotwar or Ryotwise system was tried on a small scale by Captain Alexander Reed in some of the areas that were taken over by the company after defeating Tipu Sultan. Subsequently developed by Thomas Munro, this system was gradually extended all over South. So this system was given by Captain Alexander Reed, and after he defeated the Tipu Sultan and develops and subsequently it was developed by Thomas Munro only. It extended all over the south as many of the southern area was under Tipu Sultan. As Tipu Sultan was defeated, he made this system spread all over the south. The settlement, they argued, had to be made directly with the cultivators. The cultivators here are known as ryots, who had tilled the land for generations. Their field had to be carefully and surveyed before the revenue assessment was made. Monroe thought that the British should act as a paternal father figures protecting the ryots under the charge. So students, out there's a reflection spot for you and you are supposed to answer these questions, and you can answer these questions in the comment box given below. Out of the ideas which the companies used for agricultural development, which one you like the most? Like there are many settlements given by different Englishmen. Among that, which of the following do you think is more beneficial for agricultural improvement in India, and why do you like it the most? Do answer it in the comment box below. So there is an PN instruction for it. Mahalwari settlement is given by Thomas Munro, Holt Mackenzie, Captain Alexander Reed. So please write your answers in your notebook or in the comment box for your knowledge, and the answer key will be provided in the description given below after this video. The charges of collecting the revenue and paying it to the company was given to the village headman. The following names of settlement are given: the permanent settlement, the Monroe system, the Mahalwari settlement. Another question for you. In Mahalwari settlement, amount to be paid was fixed permanently, that is, it was not to be ever increased in future, whether the statement is true or false. Focus on the topics we have studied and answer the following questions. Crops for Europe is the next subheading. The British also realized that the countryside could not only yield revenue, it could also grow crops that Europe required. The British was very selfish for their needs. They realized that not only getting the revenue from the farmers or the peasants of India, they can generate different crops that Europe requires. By the late 18th century, the company was trying its best to expand the cultivation of opium and indigo. So as these two major crops that Europeans required, the company tried to force the peasants to grow opium and indigo, which nowhere helped Indians. It was only for the benefit of Europeans. They exploited the peasants at the end, that we'll study further. In the century and a half that followed, the British persuaded or forced cultivated in various parts of India to produce other crops. Like there were different crops for different areas as per their soil or as per their requirement as well. Like jute in Bengal to be grown, tea in Assam, sugarcane in the United Provinces like now known as Uttar Pradesh, wheat in Punjab, cotton in Maharashtra and Punjab, rice in Madras. Why the demand for Indian indigo increased? By the 13th century, Indian indigo was being used by cotton manufacturers in Italy, France, and Britain to dye cotton. The indigo that was grown in India was used by the foreign countries like Italy, France. The indigo grown in India was not coming in use for the Indians, not for their benefit. It was the benefit for the other countries. However, only small amount of Indian indigo reached the European market and its price was very high. And that Indian indigo that was grown in India was given at a very normal wage. But when it reached the European market, the price seemed to be very high and it was very beneficial for the Britain. European cloth manufacturers therefore had to depend on another plant called board to make violet and blue dyes. Now they start manufacturing clothes, they started dyeing the clothes. So wood was used to make violet and blue dyes. Worried about the competition from indigo wood produced in Europe, pressurized the governments to ban import of indigo. Cloth dyers, however, preferred indigo as a dye. Indigo produced a rich blue color, whereas the dye from the wood was pale and dull. So the Europeans produced wood to dye, but the indigo that was produced in India has a rich color than the wood that was grown over there. By the 17th century, European cloth producers persuaded their governments to relax the ban on indigo import. Britain began to industrialize and its cotton production expanded dramatically, creating an enormous new demand for cloth dyes. While the demand for indigo increased, existing supplies from the West Indies and America collapsed for a variety of reasons. Between 1783 and 1789, the production of the world for indigo fell by half. From the last decades of the 18th century, indigo cultivation in Bengal expanded rapidly because indigo came to dominate the world market. In 1788, only about 30% of the indigo imported by Britain from India, and by 1810 the proportion has gone up to 95%. So indigo played a very commercial role. Bengal expanded rapidly for indigo cultivation, and as there was increasing demand of indigo, the market increased. And as Bengal was importing, the Britishers were importing or exporting it, so they were dominating the market in that case, and it has increased by 95%. That's a huge rise. So there is another P instructions for you. Farmers of Punjab were forced to grow wheat, rice, cotton, sugarcane. The options are 1 and 2, 1 and 3, only 1, 1, 2 and 3. So write your answers below. And the next question is, by 1810, the proportion of indigo exports to Britain has increased up to 95%. True and false. So students, do you remember we have studied in the last slide as well? So write your answer. So there's the next question for you. Demand for Indian indigo surged after ban was shifted on exporting indigo, and industrial revolution. Both A and B. Wood was found in heat zone, temperate zone, and fridge zone. How indigo was cultivated? What are the ways of cultivating indigo? We'll study in it. Niche cultivation. In this cultivation, the planter produced indigo in lands that they have directly controlled. He either bought the land or rented it to other zamindars and produced indigo by directly employing hired laborers. Okay, I guess it's very easy to understand. Like basically, indigo was grown on land. Either the zamindars they given it to the laborers on rent, or either they grow it on their own lands and produce indigo. It is known as niche cultivation. In Ryothi system, the planters force the ryots to sign a contract, an agreement. That agreement between the contractor and the planters is known as satta. At times, they pressurize the village headman to sign the contract on behalf of ryots. Do you see? At times, like the village headman can sign the contract on behalf of ryots, like who are going to work on land, even not they are not allowed, and on behalf of that village headman can sign the contract. So at that time, this much, however, the peasants were exploited badly. Those who signed the contract got cash advances from the planters at low rates of interest to produce indigo. But the loan committed to the riot to cultivate indigo was at least 25% of the land of area under their holding. The planters provided the seeds and the drill, while the cultivators prepared the soil and sowed the seed and looked after the crop. Now there is a Blue Rebellion. In March 1859, thousands of ryots in Bengal refused to grow indigo. As the rebellion spread, ryots refused to pay the rents to the planters. The planters and attacked indigo factories. Armed with swords and spreads, bows and arrows, women turns up to fight with pots, pans, and kitchen implements. So there is a complete rebellion that took place. It is known as the Blue Rebellion in March 1859. The ryots of Bengal felt very much exploited and they want to fight for it. So they refused to grow indigo. Planters refused to pay the rent, refused to pay the revenue as well, attacked all the indigo factories made by the Britishers. Women also were a part of these. Those who worked for the planters were socially boycotted. People boycotted the planters of indigo. Gomasthas, agents of planters who came to collect rent, was beaten up. So the planters themselves do not go to collect rent. They undergoes, like they are known as masthas. They used to go to people or the peasants to get rent. So those people who used to come and get like the rent were beaten up. Riots swore that they would no longer take advantage to sow indigo, nor be bullied by the planters' lathials, yielding strong men maintained by the planters. So planters also have strong men known as lathials who used to bully people. So they were like roaring aloud that we will not grow indigo and we won't be bullied by the planters' lathials. So there was a complete. So there is match the following also for you. Rayot village, Mahel peasants, Nij cultivation on dry land, cultivation on planters' own land. So there are different options. Match the following. Choose the correct option regarding Gomanthas, agents of planters. They collected rent from the royals. First is true, but second is false. Second is true, but first is false. Both are true and both are false.